Welcome to another episode of R&R Living Life. In this episode, Rick and I spend time exploring Kalbarri. We begin our afternoon at Eagle Gorge, apparently named for the wedge-tailed eagles that live in the gorge. Eagle Gorge Lookout is one of the many spectacular vantage points within Kalbarri National Park to view the Indian Ocean and the stunning coastline, where the ocean waters clash with the rugged coastal cliffs. It was only a short walk to the lookout, where we were greeted with stunning sandstone terraced views. As we left the car park, we encountered an echidna, which I was excited about as we had not seen much wildlife. Our first view was stunning, but we were not expecting what was to come in the following days. Our next stop for the afternoon was at Pot Alley, named by a local fisherman after losing many pots in this hazardous cove, with spectacular ocean scenery amidst the expansive rugged gorges, with views south from the cliff tops, capturing the rugged coastline. We were already captivated by the colours and stunning sceneries we were seeing. On leaving Pot Alley, we stopped at Rainbow Valley, with sands and silts containing an assortment of minerals that have been layered, compacted and weathered to form a rainbow spectrum of stone. Slightly north of Pot Alley towards Kalbarri, a marked circuit connects Rainbow Valley and Mushroom Rock and highlights the ancient coastline with a range of rock formations including red and white banded sandstone and fossilised burrows of worm-like creatures that lived 400 million years ago, created by strong winds and water eroding away the rock over millions of years. Informative signage along the circuit takes you back through the years, telling the history of the varied geological formations and explaining the flora and fauna in the area. As dusk was approaching, we did not venture far down the trail, but were lucky enough to see a kangaroo feeding amongst the coastal heath. What an enjoyable start to our stay in Kalbarri. Stunning scenery, wildlife, amazing ocean views, interesting geological formations and the stunning rugged coastline aplenty, an artist's palette of colour. I had ticked so many boxes today. I had been surprised by the contrast of colours, not just the ocean against the cliffs, but the various shades of the cliffs as the sun began to set, and the changing colours of the ocean. But the afternoon was not finished yet, as we then enjoyed a very colourful sunset as we waited for our fish and chips, entertained by a lizard on our table. What a day it had been. Kalbarri is a picturesque seaside town midway along Australia's Coral Coast, located at the mouth of the Murchison River, which has an elevation of 6 metres. The cliffs near the river mouth were named after the trading ship the Zeedorf that was wrecked there in 1712. The area became a popular fishing and tourist spot in the 1940s, and by 1948 the state government declared a town site. Lots were soon surveyed and the town was gazetted in 1951. The town is encircled by two distinctly different landscapes. To the east of the town, the awe-inspiring 400 million-year-old gorges of the Kalbarri National Park, and to the west, the towering coastal cliffs which plummet into the ocean below. Kalbarri's resident pelicans can be seen each morning at 9:15 as they make their way to the grassed area on the foreshore near the intersections of Grey and Wood Streets. Red Bluff, with its 100-metre-high soaring cliff face just south of the township, is a dramatic coastal cliff that extends 13 kilometres to Kalbarri National Park's southern boundary. After a restful night, we continued exploring the park, over 186,000 hectares of rugged terrain, majestic beauty and peaceful seclusion, along with the many tourists. The park surrounds the lower reaches of the Murchison River that cuts a magnificent 80-kilometre twisting and turning gorge through the red and white banded sandstone, where one could feel dwarfed by the magnitude of these sandstone gorges, over 400 million years in the making. The park is home to many wonders of geography and geology, including Nature's Window, a rock formation overlooking the Murchison River, just over half an hour east of Kalbarri, Z Bend, and Hawk's Head. The Murchison River is the second longest river in Western Australia at 820 kilometres in length and has a catchment area of 82,000 square kilometres, larger than Tasmania. The river starts its journey near Meekatharra, travelling across vast plains, salt lakes and gorges, with many rivers forming this massive catchment area. When cyclones in the north of the state drop heavy rains in the catchment areas, resulting in flooding waters reaching Kalbarri up to 3 weeks later, with these floodwaters carrying an abundant supply of nutrients that nourish and restore the river system. We have been making our way along the Coral Coast, where coastal wonders meet ancient landscapes, stretching 1,100 kilometres along the breathtaking coastline of Western Australia, from Cervantes to Ningaloo Reef near the coastal town of Exmouth. It is an area with boundless marine life, vast open skies and awe-inspiring landscapes. Kalbarri is in the middle of this expanse of the Indian Ocean coastline, with an abundance of incredible wildlife and marine life, oceans painted with azure blue hues, rugged red outback deserts, and the world's longest fringe reef, history, heritage, prehistoric lifeforms, stunning geology and culture, not to mention the pristine white sandy beaches, offshore reefs and breathtaking gorges. Unfortunately, we were travelling in the dry season, not in wildflower season, so did not get to enjoy the brilliant carpet of colour seen in the area. We are also not swimmers, so did not get to dip our toes, though did do some of the amazing walking trails. Our first stop for the morning was at Nature's Window, an easy 1 kilometre return walk that led us along a picturesque trail, past some interesting lookout points. While I didn't quite make it to the window, Rick climbed up and over the rock face and was rewarded with amazing views, not just where the natural rock formation perfectly frames the rugged upstream view of the Murchison River. While Rick ventured to the Nature's Window, I scrambled down as far as I could and enjoyed the spectacular views of the river from my perch on some rocks, though I was told later I was not far from the window. The contrast between the riverbed, gum trees and the rock formation was stunning. Once we had returned to a more even footing, I could view the skywalks and spent time rereading the interpretive signage. From Nature's Window we made our way to the skywalk with its 2 cantilevered viewing platforms, fully pre-assembled in Perth prior to being installed, that are perched on the cliff top, boasting stunning views of the Murchison River Gorge's red rust cliffs, waterholes and bushland. The twin skywalks, built 100 metres apart, with one projecting 17 metres beyond the gorge rim, while the other, being the longest cantilevered walkway structure in the southern hemisphere, extends 25 metres. Both structures are sitting more than 100 metres above the Murchison River. I did walk carefully about halfway out on the short one to capture some views down into the gorge, until my fear of heights got the better of me and I had to return to more solid ground and where the wind didn't blow up my pants legs. Interpretive artwork, including the Bimara serpent central to the dreaming story of the Nanda people, sandblasted in the walking path and message sticks welded to make a forest near the entrance of the skywalk, highlights the Aboriginal heritage of the area, along with informative signage on the geology and flora and fauna of the area. Over 1,000 tonnes of sandstone was excavated during the construction of the skywalks and reused to create the surrounding tiered landscape. I was happy to know that the skywalk is made of 117 tonnes of weathered steel, able to support a weight of 1,000 kilograms per square metre, so can carry quite a few tourists at one time. From the Skyways we made our way to Z Bend, a distinctive zigzag section of the Murchison River, formed by joints or fractures with the red Tumbalagudda sandstone. From the lookout, it sits 150 metres above the river. We had an incredibly breathtaking view, firstly from the top of the lookout, and then from the small platform between the cliff faces. These straight vertical joints allow the river to deeply carve the rock layers and form straight river segments, while where the joints intersect each other, the river's course changed to create a zigzag pattern, creating the Z bend shape. The river plunges down to where red river gums create a striking contrast against the earthly hues of the Tumbalagudda sandstone. A walking trail with a steep descent, loose rocks, and ladder climbs through a tree-lined gully and narrow chasm was not for me, but we did enjoy the dramatic views we had seen from both the trail down and the lookout. The flies, though, were not something we enjoyed. Back in the boat, we dispersed the flies that had wanted to join us before heading to Hawk's Head Lookout, named in honour of a hawk-shaped rock formation visible from the lookout. We again had stunning views of the gorge and the Murchison River, with millions of years of history recorded in the spectacular bedded rocks. Meandering water sculptured the very young Murchison Gorge when compared with the ancient rocks that covered much of the Kalbarri National Park. Here the red and white banded layers of Tumbalagudda sandstone were deposited by rivers and on tidal sand flats when the rivers flowed westwards, crisscrossing a broad plain that merged with the tidal flats bordering the coast. In places, deltas built out from this coastline, separated by large bays. The river deposits now form mostly thick beds of criss-cross sandstone and siltstone. Fossilised traces are found through the gorge of some of the earliest creatures to leave the oceans and walk on land. At Hawk's Head, you can see the tidal deposits beneath the river deposits on the banks across from the lookout. We moved on to Ross Graham Lookout, named after the first school teacher in Kalbarri. Ross Graham was a devoted conservationist and aided in the exploration of the Murchison River. On the way back to Kalbarri, we stopped in at the Minara Hill, a limestone-capped peak at 207 metres above sea level and only 5 kilometres from Kalbarri. It was a perfect vantage point, with 360-degree views of Kalbarri and the Murchison River flowing into the Indian Ocean, with many interpretive signs about the landscape and the traditional owners to read. We could only marvel at the 200-kilometre expanse of Zuyndorf Cliffs, named after the Zuyndorf ship that was wrecked off the rugged coast in the early 1700s, with the ship remains still on the seabed near the cliffs. On the 1st of August 1711, Zuyndorf departed from the Netherlands to the trading port of Batavia, but never arrived. No search was undertaken, as there were no clue as to where the ship was lost, and the crew was never heard from again. From the lookout at Red Bluff, we could see some of the cliffs that stretch from the mouth of the Murchison River to off the coast near Pepper Point south of Steep Point, where wind and wave erosion have created impressive cliffs that plunge 100 metres to the ocean. At the highest point, the top of the cliffs are 250 metres above the sea, composed of Pleistocene aged limestone formed by the cementation of ancient calcareous sand dunes that accumulated near the coast during episodes of the last ice age, with the relatively straight edge of the cliffs having been determined to be due to a major fault line just offshore. Such incredible views! While to the north we could see massive sand dunes. We stopped near Chinaman's Beach, where we viewed a small fishing boat returning through Ganthium Bay and the Murchison River mouth. It was interesting to watch as he steered his way through the marked channel and, in my opinion, choppy water, though I am not a fisher person, so really wouldn't know if the water was choppy or not, but it did look tough going. The incoming tide certainly made for some incredible wave formations as they broke against the rocky ledge that ran out into the bay. We then wandered over to the Anzac Memorial and the calmer waters of the sheltered river mouth. On our return to Gidget, we stopped to check out Wittikara Creek, believed to be the site of the first permanent landing of Europeans in Australia, when in 1629 two of the conspirators involved in the mutiny on the trading vessel Batavia landed near here, though their ultimate fate is unknown. Later that afternoon we went to watch the sunset from Red Bluff Lookout, along with the many other tourists. Here in Kalbarri I have been fascinated by the ever-changing colours depending on the weather conditions, be it cloud cover, full sun, or time of day. I would hazard to say that the contrast has been more evident here than in any other place we have visited to date, but I could be wrong. Seeing the coastline as the sun set was an entirely different experience as to when we had seen it around the middle of the day. The ocean merged through a range of colours from pale greenish blue to nearly black, while on the tips of the waves they were bathed in a fiery orange, depending on where the sun sat on the horizon. Even the colours of the cliff faces changed as the sun set lower. It made for a very interesting afternoon. I have included the photos as I took them, and though I know they are as I took them, it is still hard to believe the range of colours from one photograph to the next. Rick and I spent an hour watching the sun go down, though it was not a romantic afternoon spent by ourselves, but with the many other tourists. It was still a magical afternoon. During this episode, I have often felt as though I have been doing an advertising commercial, but Kalbarri and the surrounding area is really an amazing place. I have sifted through hundreds of photographs to put together this episode and have had to remove lots to the point where I am happy with what I have included. I am not a professional photographer, but just a happy snapper. For every photograph there are 3 or 4 others that I could have included. Every place we have visited in this episode has been incredible. Amazing keeps coming to mind. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. Give us a thumbs up if you did. Join us next time as we continue exploring Kalbarri before making our way further north. Take care and stay safe. Cheers for now. Rick and Rosemary. R&R, Living Life.